The Carv.2 is the newest addition to the weapon lineup in Warzone and Black Ops Cold War. It's another burst fire tactical rifle, but this one does have something that will set it apart. As always, I'm going to be going through every stat of this gun, but with its attachments, not in its base form. I'm going to start off by saying that the barrels are currently bugged, so I did want to make a long range build and talk about the Cavalry Lancer barrel because it's the only one that currently increases bullet velocity, but since it's probably going to get patched extremely quickly, I decided to go with a more mid-range build. For this build, we've got the Agency Silencer, the 18.9-inch titanium barrel because this damage range is already going to be pretty short and you'll see why. The Axial arms 3 times, but I kind of prefer using the 2 times, and sometimes the Holo Scout for slightly closer engagements, the Field Agent foregrip for recoil reduction, and the 45 round drum mag. So let's get into its stats, starting with mobility. Our ADS time isn't the greatest, and our reload time tells us that you should always save a few rounds in your magazine before reloading, instead of emptying the entire thing. Our magazine size is not the greatest, but it is a higher damage weapon. Its movement and sprint speed though are absolutely amazing, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be running around with this thing out. Unless of course if you paired it with a pistol or something with much higher mobility. The ADS strafe speed is 2 meters per second, which is pretty average for a tactical rifle. So don't expect SMG level strafe speeds with this. Our sprint out time is pretty average, so you can technically sprint out with this, but I personally wouldn't. Now the bullet velocity is only 740.7 meters per second, which is not that great. And that's because the only thing boosting it is the Agency Silencer. If we had one of the other barrels to help, I would have included it, but since I don't want to talk about the Cavalry Lancers since it's going to be patched and I want this video to stay relevant, I'm going to leave it like this. Because remember, this build is more for medium range. Now when looking at the rate of fire, you may think it's not that great, but remember, this is a burst gun. So if you add up all the mobility stats, you get a total mobility score of 32. The reason I picked the 3 times for this chart is to show what its maximum ADS time could be. If you swap out the 3 times scope for either the 2 times or the Holo Scout, you'll get a score of 33. Its recoil is pretty interesting. The pattern is pretty manageable, but because its rate of fire is so high, it starts to stack. And since I give a recoil score based on as fast as it can fire, that's why its recoil score is rather low. For the damage values, I found the drop-off point was 30 meters. After 30 meters, every damage value except the lower torso for some reason drops by 1 point. This doesn't really affect the time to kill though, so you can pretty much ignore it. So under 30 meters, you can see that this gun is not the greatest, and the scores reflect that of a long range build. But when you get to over 30 meters, you're going to see that this gun is pretty dominant. Remember though, that the second set of TTK values are all reflecting bullet velocity. So once the barrels get fixed and you build a more long range build, the TTK will be a bit faster. And this gun will be better from medium to long range. So with these damage values, it gets a damage score of 60. And just because it's specialized for mid range doesn't mean you can't use it for close range. It won't be beating SMGs or a few full auto weapons, but if you land every hit in your burst, you'll be beating most people who have long range weapons on them. And if we add up all the values, we get a total of 128, which is pretty good for a mid-range build. Once the barrels get fixed and you're looking to build a more long-range build, I expect the mobility score to go up by 2 or 3 points, giving you a total of 130 or 131 points, which is actually really great for a mid to long-range build. So, how do you use this Carv build and where is the most effective? I would say, when you see anyone between 30 and 60 meters, you've got a pretty good advantage. You'll be hitting so many bullets from your burst, and because the bursts are coming so fast, you're going to be taking down people before they even know what's hitting them. And if you happen to mount this weapon, it's literally a laser beam. Because of its high mobility, you can patrol areas and just wait for people to come into your line of sight. And if you're hunting down someone, keep some open space between you and where you think they are. Just don't try to push your range too far because its velocity isn't that great, and the recoil isn't really optimized for that. You just want to be sending your bursts down as fast as you can, but making sure that those bullets are hitting. Once the barrels get fixed, I'll do another video on a long range build, although I expect most of the stats to be the same. The Carv is already a great gun, and once the patches start coming, this thing is going to become even greater. So what do you think about the Carv? Are you impressed by it, disappointed by it, or have you not even unlocked it yet? Let me know in the comments. And remember, if you got any questions, topics, or ideas that you want me to cover, all you gotta do is comment them here or on Instagram, and I'll put them in a Community Wednesday video. But that's the video. If you enjoyed it or has helped you in any way, please hit like. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section down below. And if you want to make sure that you never miss another video, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.